Welcome to our webinar on Kubernetes made easy for ISPs. My name is Bikram Gupta. I am the product manager for Kubernetes here at DigitalOcean, and I'll be your host for today. We have an excellent lineup of presenters on this topic that I'll introduce in a minute. Before we dive in though, I would love to hear from all of you. Can you please take a moment to share where are you dialing in from? We definitely want to make this session interactive and appreciate all the engagement. By the way, I'm joining from San Jose in California from USA. Please feel free to say hi in the comments and share where you are joining from. And we'll also give a minute for folks to join in. Yeah, I see a bunch of folks, Laszlo, Yash, Bojan. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing anything incorrectly. Paul, Carlos from Portugal, Lucas from Poland. Wow. We really appreciate that you took time to join, and we hope that the content is going to be valuable to you, and then you're going to enjoy this. Hey, Mark. We'll just give another minute and then get started. I see that folks are joining in. A lot of folks are joining in. All right. Thank you for being here, and thank you for introducing yourselves. Let me now take a moment to introduce my fellow presenters. First, we have Alexander Polishuk from Younet.ai. We are super proud to have Younet.ai as our customer. Alexander, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, thanks, Bikram. Hi, everyone. Happy to share my experience today about DigitalOcean Kubernetes.
Thank you. And next we have Adolfo De Lorenzo from Potener. I myself have been using Potener for a while, and I love the product. We are excited to have Potener as our partner today. Adolfo, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, hello, Adolfo Di Lorenzo, Sales Engineering Manager for Portainer. And we've been a long-standing partner of DigitalOcean. Actually, we're huge fans of DO, and a lot of our back-end development and a lot of the dev stuff that happens at Portainer is based on your platform. So yeah, we just love you guys.
Thank you. And finally, we have my friend Jack Pierce, my colleague here at DigitalOcean. Jack, over to you.
Thanks, Bikram. Yeah, so I'm Jack. I'm based in the UK. I work as a solutions architect. So today I'll be doing a demonstration of Kubernetes. Thanks, Bikram.
Awesome. Thank you. Now, we know that many of you are likely startups or independent software vendors. While Kubernetes is a lucrative and highly flexible platform, it can also be difficult to manage. And that's the topic of our focus today. How DigitalOcean Kubernetes can help simplify operations so you can focus on your core business. Before we get started, let me also remind you that you can submit your questions using the chat throughout the webinar. We'll try to answer those in the comments and then also follow up towards the end. So today we'll start with an overview of DOKS itself, and then followed by a real-world use case of how Younet.ai is leveraging DOKS. And then Jack will dive into a live demo, giving you a first-hand look at how simple it is to operate DOKS. And then we'll explore Portainer and how it enables migration to Kubernetes, DOKS Kubernetes. And finally, we'll go through Q&A and then hopefully will share some of the resources that will help you in getting started with your DOKS journey. Startups and ISVs are unique in the sense that they are often building products and services for their end customers, which is a very different set of requirements than somebody who's building a product for their own consumption. And that's where ISPs need certain kind of customization and flexibility from the platform. Today, we have 80% or more of top DOKS customers who are an ISP. And we have thousands of these ISPs running on DigitalOcean. For example, Snippets is a interactive video platform. Bright Data is a industry-leading web data platform. NitroPack accelerates websites like WordPress and other CMS websites. And there are many more. In fact, Kubernetes is being leveraged by ISPs which are building a broad array of SaaS services, like in AI, data analytics, in e-commerce, in blockchain, in educational technology, advertisement, and security platforms, etc. One thing that I'll note here is ISPs are using DigitalOcean today not only for development and production, but also as a means for distribution. Today we have Marketplace where they can host one-clicks and SaaS add-ons. And then we have a newly announced partner program or partner pod that offers a discount of up to 25% for ISP partners. And we really strongly recommend that ISP use our platform not only for just production, but also for partnering with us for a win-win situation. And we definitely want to meet the ISP where it matters most. Okay, before we get started with the DOKS overview, I want to get a sense of where is everyone in terms of your cloud native journey. You see a few questions on this slide, like have you adopted Kubernetes in production? How about using a mix of Kubernetes and virtual machines? And is any of you using multi-cloud? I'll just pause for a few seconds. Please take a moment to respond in the chat. That will really help us to customize the content to your needs. I'll just pause for a few seconds in case if anyone has any feedback. Otherwise, please keep sharing later as well. Okay, I see that a few responses like mix. Okay, cool. Thank you. Let's keep going in that case. First, let's start with the big picture. What are the compute options that are available to you? If you look at this slide, on the very left, you have Droplets. Droplets are versatile virtual machines that give you the freedom of self-management with a variety of plans. And then you also have GPUs available through Paperspace. On the extreme right, you have App Platform, and App Platform is a fully managed service. You just bring your code, we'll build it for you, we'll deploy it, we'll monitor it, we'll manage it, so that you really don't have to worry about doing anything about the management. You just bring your code and we run it for you. And then you have a sweet spot in the middle, which is DOKS. Now, the DOKS represents more like a balanced approach in the sense that you get the power and flexibility of Kubernetes without the operational overhead. We take care of setting it up for you, managing it, monitoring it, upgrading it, but then you take care of running all the applications, managing your applications, and you can customize it the way you see fit. And that's why that's why for ISPs who really need certain control, yet who want a managed platform, DOKS is a really sweet spot for them. Now let's try to dig a little bit deeper into this. Like why even use Kubernetes for ISPs, right? I mean, what problem does it solve? While this slide shows a lot of different type of use cases, I just want to pick one or two of those. Let's consider scaling. So we saw different type of ISPs that build on Kubernetes. Let's take one example, that of educational technology or edtech. When you are building an edtech company, you have online classes, you have students who are enrolling. The classes may see a significant load during the exam time and during daytime, almost no load during late night. And then there are certain classes which will see a lot of demand, whereas certain type of classes will see very few students. It's very natural, right? If you are adopting a platform like Kubernetes, then you can really rely on the horizontal pod autoscaler, which is a feature of Kubernetes, to scale up your class or the application based on the demand, based on how many students joining. And then if that starts to reach your cluster capacity, then the cluster autoscaler will automatically kick in and it will scale up your cluster. And so you really didn't have to worry about writing code or doing things manually or writing scripts to scale your cluster based on the demand. Kubernetes does it for you. Like this, Kubernetes provides you automation, a huge CNCF ecosystem, bunch of tooling for day-to operations, and then the declarative architecture, which means automatic restart, etc. And then I just want to summarize by saying that ISPs need certain type of customization, automation, and scale, and that's why Kubernetes is the sweet spot for them. Well, now let's talk about why DigitalOcean Kubernetes for ISVs. When we build our product, even as part of our engineering life cycle, we always keep two things in mind. One is how can we make it simple to operate, and then how can we genuinely lower the cost of ownership for our customers. I want to give one example on simple to operate. If you have tried out DigitalOcean Kubernetes, you know that it takes one command or one click on the UI to create the cluster. And then you want storage, you want load balancer, you want database, all those are available to you as Kubernetes resources. It's that simple. And then let's talk about the lower TCO. Again, I'll give just one example in the interest of time. Besides the free control plane, which is very helpful if you are going to run like tens of clusters, let's talk about the upgrade. You are an ISV, you have 50 node cluster. When you are upgrading, we are actually allocating 10 extra nodes by default, so that your cluster workloads will never go down. And then we are upgrading 10 nodes at a time. And imagine this upgrade happening once or twice a month. What I mean, we don't charge you for the surge nodes that we are creating. You absolutely don't have to worry about that. Likewise, if you are doing thousands of auto scaling events per month, which is very natural, we don't bill you until the node is ready and part of the cluster. We don't start billing when the node is getting booted up. No, we start billing clock only after the node is ready. So like this, everything that we do, we keep in mind about how can we really optimize the cost for you. Okay, so far what we looked at was why Kubernetes for ISVs and then why DigitalOcean Kubernetes. Now let's talk about how ISVs adopt Kubernetes. I saw that many of you are already running Kubernetes. Some of you are running a mix of Kubernetes and virtual machines. You have already figured out a process, right? And so when you look at the list of items here, naturally, even though it looks like a lot, it's not that overwhelming. Not really. It's a journey. So you basically you basically start with going from POC to production quickly, and then you think of optimizing. In discovery, you are looking at, okay, how big a cluster, what type of nodes, am I going to need a load balancer, things like that. And then in development, you're looking at, okay, how do you really go from writing code to deploying in Kubernetes without having to go through a lot of steps? Like, how do you make that iteration really, really fast? CI/CD is a journey, and what I see that has worked for many customers is they just start with a staging cluster so that when they commit code, it gets automatically deployed to staging. Whereas staging deployment is automatic, they use staging for testing, but the production is always manual until you really achieve that level of confidence where you can automate it. So again, CI/CD is a journey where like you are slowly making it incremental, slowly making it improved. In production, you are primarily looking at monitoring and scaling and primarily monitoring security, load balancer configuration, etc. Let me talk about scale briefly. Uh, it's a good idea not to think about scale until you really have a stable production. I've worked with a lot of ISPs who go from POC to production in a matter of day 0 to 4 to 6 weeks. And after that, let's say they're going from $0 bill to $10,000 bill per month. After that, I see them coming back to $6,000 or $7,000. Why? That's when they are looking at scale, their configuration, what areas can they optimize? Are they choosing the right kind of nodes? Like, are they using shared or dedicated, CPU, memory optimized? By looking at all those things, they are able to optimize the cost. So just to summarize, really, while this shows a comprehensive list, the idea is to go from 0 to production in matter of 4 to 6 weeks, and then think about scale after you have a stable production. That was a quick overview of DOKS. With that, let me hand over to Alexander for how they leverage Younet.ai.
Yeah, thanks, Bikram, for the basics and insights about DigitalOcean Kubernetes services. It was really helpful and insightful. But before I go and share my experience with DigitalOcean Kubernetes services, I would like to share a little bit about Younet. As I said, I'm Alexander Polishuk, the CTO of Younet, and we've built the product based on those three fundamentals: create, communicate, and collaborate. Let me elaborate on those. So first of all, we let you, any user or any employees in the company, can come to our platform and create AI model in minutes without any technicalities and any technical knowledges. Once you do that, you would be able to tailor it to your automation and to your task, daily task, and communicate to it. You can communicate with your model through our platform chat, or you can take it to your common interfaces like email client, CRM, or any other web applications. And once you're happy with results, what you can do, you can collaborate. You can share that access to your AI model with your colleagues within the organization or to anyone else, literally anyone else. So let me give you an example, the brief example, how it would be applicable for the business use case. So as you can see on my slide, there's an example. Each corporation or company has two valuable assets. First one is the business information that the company holds, and the second ones is employees. So imagine you can create a variety of those AI models inside of Younet, put the business information aside the responsibilities, and then share it within organizations. So all your employees have access to those insights at literally any minute of their workflow. They're not supposed to go back and forth with email communication now. They're able to access information easily, and the information is really good. So now let's move along to my experience with DigitalOcean Kubernetes. So how did I came and decide to use Kubernetes specifically with DigitalOcean? So it's a long story. First of all, I had a long experience, and I've been a long customer of DigitalOcean. I've been using lots of services that they provide. But when it comes to creating a new platform, it always matters how cost effective it is, especially in startup area. So before I go and create new system infrastructure for new MVP or new platform, I always leverage those metrics and I compare different vendors. And for some reason, DigitalOcean always comes on top. The cost is significantly cheaper comparing to other vendors. Then when it comes to deployment and the development experience, it's really simple from both sides, from the user interface side and from the documentation sides. My development team is really happy with the experience they get with DigitalOcean, especially the DevOps team. They always can locate the information that they actually need within minutes, because the documentation is a piece of art with the DigitalOcean comparing to other vendors. Because I had that experience coming to other documentation, and it's easier to break a leg there. Yeah, moving along, I would like to share my experience, more technical stuff about DigitalOcean, what exactly we're using at Younet, and how it benefits us. Basically, I would say we use the whole suite of services DigitalOcean provide for our operation, and the core piece of it is actually Kubernetes. We use Kubernetes as for staging and for production environments, and the main things I love about it is that DigitalOcean services, they do not lock you up with their own services like other vendors do. And the second thing is that it's really reliable, and we never had an issue. As Bikram mentioned before, they had that surge update. They allocate those nodes, extra nodes, for free of charge, and we didn't even think about it. But now I know. I didn't know that insights about it, about my Kubernetes, but now I know, and I'm loving it because I've never been charged for it. The next thing is that it's pretty much easy to use, as I mentioned before. DigitalOcean made a lot of work on highlighting essentials, what you actually would need to create your first Kubernetes. It would take you literally a couple of days, sometimes minutes if you're an experienced user of Kubernetes, to deploy your first MVP and then scale it up to your needs and then do optimization techniques, etc. I think the next speaker will let you know, give you a small demo session and showcase how it is easy to deploy one. How about everything else? We're also using managed databases, object storages, container registry for our CI/CD, load balancers, and I gotta mention that it was so easy to integrate SSL certification with the load balancer services and connect to my Kubernetes. And when it comes to scaling, as also Bikram already mentioned, they have that autoscaler that really simplified the work, especially when it comes to unstable traffic. Most of the startups have, let's say, high availability traffic within the weekdays, and then on the weekends there's nothing to do. So my cluster go down and up based with help of the DigitalOcean HPA model. That would be it for me as a technical insights. And yeah, guys, we really love DigitalOcean as our technical providers, and we're looking forward to use you for any new MVPs and development we do. Thank you. I'm gonna introduce Jack Pierce. He's gonna give you a brief demo session as I mentioned before, how to deploy one Kubernetes. Thank you.
In the UK, I work as a solutions architect for DigitalOcean. Hi everybody, my name is Jack Pearce and I am based in the UK. I work as a solutions architect for DigitalOcean. So today I want to give you a brief demo of our managed Kubernetes, what it's like to create a cluster, what it's like to manage some of the settings on that cluster, create a load balancer, and use our block storage as well. So I just want to, full transparency, I will be skipping ahead some parts of this recording just because I've only got 15 minutes, but I will be available live on the webinar to answer any questions afterwards. I'd just like to start by showing you this reference diagram. So here we have a Kubernetes cluster. We have our master nodes over here. This is our control plane. So we manage the control plane for you. That's the hard bit. You don't need to worry about that. That is fully managed by us. Load balancer as a service can be integrated as well. So that's your ingress. These load balancers can be scaled to handle millions of requests per second. We have our worker nodes. So we have pools of worker nodes. These are made up using our droplets, so our virtual machines. And again, these are all managed for you. So you don't get SSH access or anything like that to these virtual machines. We manage all the difficult bits for you, the operating system, the file system, all of the application and software that are installed on those virtual machines. That's all managed by us. So you don't need to worry about any of that. So we have cluster autoscaler and horizontal pod autoscaling as well built into the product. For block storage, you can use our volumes. You can use our S3 compatible spaces, which is our object storage, or you could set up file storage on a droplet in the same private network as your Kubernetes cluster, something like NFS. Okay, so now to show you what it looks like to create a Kubernetes cluster in the user interface in the DigitalOcean control panel. So first we need to choose the data center region. The pricing for all of our regions is exactly the same. So you don't need to worry about different pricing for different regions. I'm going to select London. I'm going to select a VPC, which is our virtual private network. And any resource that you put into the same VPC will be assigned automatically an IP address in private IP space, and those resources can communicate with one another. So any droplets that you already have, for example, in a VPC, you can then put your Kubernetes cluster into that same VPC and they'll be able to communicate with each other. Same with managed databases as well. So we support the last 3 minor versions of the upstream version from Kubernetes. So I'm going to deploy the latest version here. Next, we will choose our cluster capacity. So we need to choose a scaling type with fixed size. So we'll choose the size of our nodes and the number of nodes, and that size won't change unless we come in and manually update that. This is good for predictable workloads where you know what the CPU and memory usage is likely to be. We can also then set an auto scaling type. Now, with an auto scaling type, we set a minimum and maximum number of nodes. And this will allow us to have a pool of servers that scale based on the load. So if your application gets an influx of traffic, or if your application all of a sudden has to process a ton of workloads concurrently and it needs additional CPU and memory to do that, the cluster autoscaler will notice that it needs additional CPU and memory, and it will scale the number of servers automatically within a range that you set. So here I'm just going to set a minimum of 2, a maximum of 10 nodes. These nodes are going to have 2 gigabytes of memory. I'm just choosing the basic machine type here, or droplet. The nodes are essentially just droplets. And we can choose from our premium range or our dedicated CPU range. We have CPU optimized, general purpose, memory optimized, storage optimized. They come with different ratios of CPU to memory. Some come with 10 gigabit networking. Some come with the latest generation Intel or AMD CPUs. So this is all explained in our documentation. You are given upfront a cost for your nodes, and if we were to select a fixed size, we'll get a fixed cost. If we select an auto scaling node pool, we'll get a price range. And it's just important to mention that we don't charge any extra for the control plane. We only charge for the nodes, and we only charge for any bandwidth overages that you use. So you'll also get a very generous bandwidth allowance with your nodes as well. So we have some additional options here: high availability and database operator. When I enable high availability, it gives me a 99.95% SLA on my control plane. So we will create a replica of your control plane, and that will help maximize the availability and uptime of that control plane. So again, this is something just to give you increased peace of mind. We also have our database operator. I won't go into that now, but it's essentially a way to create and automatically link our managed databases to your Kubernetes cluster. So we got to the last stage, and I'm going to create a cluster. You're given upfront costs for this cluster. Again, very easy, very transparent to follow. Okay, so I've skipped ahead here. The cluster is now created. So we get this getting started, and we can literally just copy this command. This will use our DigitalOcean CLI tool, doc tool, to save the Kubernetes config. And it's as simple as that. So we've now got access to our Kubernetes cluster, and we can start deploying our workloads. Just to note, this is vanilla Kubernetes. You get full administrative API access. If you were to build a ton of manifests and deploy them and get them up and running, and then you decide you want to move that to another cloud for disaster recovery purposes, you can do that. There's no vendor lock-in with our managed Kubernetes. So I just want to show you how easy it is to expose a service using a load balancer. Our load balancers can scale to support millions of requests per second. So I'm going to create an Nginx pod, and like that. And then I'm going to expose that Nginx pod using a type of load balancer. That will create a load balancer on the DigitalOcean platform. So you can see that creating here. Under external IP, it says pending. That's because the load balancer is creating. So if I come into the load balancer section of the control panel, I can see that being created here. Now, as soon as that is ready, we'll be given an IP address. Okay, so that load balancer has created, and we've got an IP address here. So I'm going to curl this IP address, and I get a response from that Nginx pod. So it's as easy as that to get your application, your workload up and running, and then exposed behind a load balancer. So the next thing I want to show you is how easy it is to consume our block storage. So if we go back to our Kubernetes page, we have this example documented on the Kubernetes page in the control panel, and it gives you an example of how to consume our block storage. So to consume our block storage, we will essentially use a persistent volume claim. If you're already using Kubernetes, then you'll be familiar with this, and you're probably consuming persistent volume claims using something like iSCSI, SAN, but it's the same method. We're just using a storage class that's specific to DigitalOcean. So if you have existing manifests that are consuming your current block storage provider, you can literally just change the storage class name, and we'll be able to create block storage volumes. So I have this example copied here in this file. So in this manifest, I'm creating a container with an image of BusyBox. I'm mounting a path of /data, and I'm creating a persistent volume that's 10 gigabytes in size. So I'm going to create that now. And then I'm going to retrieve my persistent volumes, and you can see that a persistent volume has been created and it is bound. So if I browse to my volumes in the DigitalOcean control panel, I will see that a 10 gigabyte volume has been created for me. It's been automatically attached to this worker node, which is a Kubernetes worker node. And yeah, I can start consuming that storage. So the other thing I want to do is just talk you through some of the settings and configurations for managing your Kubernetes cluster. So if you already have a Kubernetes cluster at the moment on bare metal, you'll appreciate that managing the control plane isn't fun. Updating the control plane, updating the Kubernetes versions isn't fun and very time consuming, especially when you just want to focus on development. So some options that we have in here just to make your life easier. We have a DigitalOcean container registry. It's a separate product. It's a private container registry. You can use it to store your images of your Docker images, for example. And if we want to integrate that with our Kubernetes cluster, we just come in here, tick this box. We'll automatically create a secret in your Kubernetes cluster, and then you can start pulling images down from that container registry. Patching, we can automatically install minor patch versions. You'll be notified 7 days in advance, and you can come in here and you can select a 4-hour maintenance window as well. That's the time window that we will apply those patches. We also have surge upgrades, so you can enable this feature for free. We will add 10 additional nodes to your cluster. These are the upgraded nodes of the new Kubernetes version that you're upgrading to. We'll then drain your existing nodes, and we will delete those old nodes. So this is a way of upgrading your cluster without having to compromise on the stability or the availability of your application. We also have our Kubernetes marketplace. So you may have used our marketplace in the past to deploy droplets, templates for droplets, which is a really easy way of getting certain applications up and running. We have a marketplace for Kubernetes. It's one-click apps. It's essentially Helm in the background. So these are just Helm charts. And if we browse to the marketplace, the full marketplace here, we can see that there are 48 applications or pre-configured stacks in the Kubernetes category, and we've got everything here. So we've got ingress controllers, we've got monitoring stacks. So if I was to click install app on this monitoring stack here, I'll get Prometheus, Grafana, Alert Manager pre-installed, ready to go. I don't have to do any manual installs of that myself. Same for Argo. We've got Argo CD here as an example. So I'm going to install this to my cluster, and I'm going to click on install, and I'm going to go back here, look at my pods, and I can see that a deployment has been made in the Argo CD namespace, and this is an Argo CD deployment. I've got some getting started instructions here, so you can see the installation has just finished. So I can really easily just port forward to my application in the Kubernetes cluster, and then I can access Argo CD. And it's as simple as that to install an application from our marketplace and then get it up and running. It's really easy to create and manage backups of your Kubernetes cluster as well. In 2023, DigitalOcean acquired SnapShooter, and SnapShooter is a great way to back up
any resource that you have in your DigitalOcean account. So it integrates natively with DigitalOcean. So I can come in here and I can click on add-ons in the control panel, and I can single sign on into the SnapShooter website. Once I'm logged into my SnapShooter account, I can really quickly and easily create and maintain backups of my Kubernetes cluster. I can choose which namespaces I want to back up. I can connect it to my own storage, any S3 compatible storage, and yeah, super easy to maintain those backups. So that was a quick introduction to our managed Kubernetes, and just to show how easy it is to get started. I would strongly recommend you check out our documentation, so docs.digitalocean.com. There's some really great getting started guides here. As an example, we have the DOKS operational readiness, things like installing an ingress controller, setting up some observability, and they're all step by step, so really easy to follow, everything that you would need to get started. This one as well is great, building and deploying your first image to your first cluster. So if you have a containerized workload at the moment, you have it built as a Docker image, or you just want to play with a Kubernetes cluster and get started, or even if you don't have your workload containerized, say for example, you have a PHP application or a Python application, this guide will talk you through building it as a Docker image, pushing it to our DigitalOcean container registry, and then deploying that as a workload on a Kubernetes cluster. And you can follow this getting started guide in about 15-20 minutes, and you'll have your application up and running on a Kubernetes cluster. Thanks for watching this demonstration. I will be on the webinar to answer any questions. Thanks, everybody. Hi, everybody.
Okay, hello. I guess it's me now. First of all, thank you very much, all of you, for joining, and I also would like to thank DigitalOcean for inviting myself and Potainer to be a speaker here. We are huge fans of DigitalOcean. We've been actually a long-standing partner of DigitalOcean, and we're actually in the DO marketplace. You can deploy a Potainer Community Edition straight into your droplets using the marketplace, or into a Kubernetes cluster, and run Potainer just straight from there. So it's quite it's been there for some time, and ourselves in our development cycle, we use DO a lot for a lot of the internal dev we do for Potainer itself. So yeah, we've been here for some time together, working with this great platform. As everybody already said before, very straightforward to use, cost effective. So yeah, what can I say? I'm just a huge fan, basically. Right. So as you see in the slide, you can just go into the DL marketplace, look for Potainer Community Edition, and you'll find it there. I'm not really much of a slide person. I do have a second slide following this one that sort of shows what I'm going to do. Then I'm just going to go straight and jump into the demo. Basically, the idea is to show how you can very easily migrate your workloads and your deployments from any Kubernetes instance running and managed by Potainer into DOKS. I'm going to use the min.io S3 bucket server as an example of how to do that. And if you have any questions, please feel free to just jump in and ask them while I'm presenting. I'll do my best to answer those. Right, so let me just share my screen. Let me select this one. There you go. It should be this one, I hope. Right. I hope you can all see my screen. Well, first of all, yes, I am a huge fan. I'd like to start with complimenting what Alexander said. Huge fan of DigitalOcean's tutorials. I use them almost on a daily basis for loads of things that I try to use and my day-to-day adventures with containers or with Linux or with other operating systems. So they have a really like to express a huge thank you for having this huge knowledge base just available for everyone. It's amazing. So I also invite anyone to look into their community tutorials, and their knowledge base is just extensive and always up to date, and it's saved my skin several times. Here in the DigitalOcean marketplace, I hope you can see it. I think I have to change the screen to something else. Let me present DigitalOcean marketplace. I'll try to just share my entire screen. I hope this works. Yep, and try not to go into the endless loop. Can you all see my screen? I hope so. Nope. Let me stop and start again. DigitalOcean screen 1. Okay. All right. So here in the marketplace, which I hope you've seen, if you type in Portainer, you can just see from here that you have the community edition, and very easily deploy this as an app onto your Kubernetes cluster very easily, very quickly. It works beautifully. So again, we've been in their marketplace for some time now, and we're actually very happy about this partnership. Now, let's go into the demo itself. What if I change my screen? Will it change it here? For some reason, it's not. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to stop and start again. And now I'm going to share my screen with Portainer. There you go. Now you will see my screen. Okay, you should be seeing my Portainer environment. All right then. So here I have 3 Kubernetes clusters. One is running on another cloud provider. The second one is running on bare metal. It's actually running on a data center that I set up as bare metal, and I manage this cluster via a VPN. So you can see that the IP address is a internal private IP address. This is running on another cloud provider, and the last one is running on DigitalOcean. It's a DOKS Kubernetes cluster. So here, what I'm going to do, as I showed in the slide, I'm going to migrate this application here, Mini.io server, running here, and I hope this works. Yes, it's working. Running here on this bare metal Kubernetes cluster to my DOKS Kubernetes cluster. It's running a bit slow, but it should show up very, very soon, hopefully. And it's actually, I really like Mini.io. I hope you guys also had the chance to enjoy this. This technology is basically a drop-in replacement for an S3 bucket running on Amazon. There you go. I already have a bucket set up called DO Webinar, and there's nothing in it. And it's running again on my bare metal Kubernetes cluster. So how would I migrate this to DOKS? So as you saw on the slide, one of the methods that we suggest is using Git. So we do have a Git integration. So what I can do is just I point to a deployment here, and with this deployment, I can very easily migrate my deployment to DOKS. So let's select DOKS here. Go into applications, and again, DOKS being a vanilla Kubernetes cluster, that makes it a lot easier because I don't need to worry about any specific custom configurations to access this cluster. I just can use it as any of the Kubernetes cluster, and that's another thing that we really like about DO. All right, so I'll just I'm going to select my namespace, give it a name. I'm going to call it S3 server, for example. Copy the repository here, copy the link. Portainer does support authentication if it's the case. And this is any Git repository. It doesn't have to be specifically GitHub, any Git compliant repository. And I'm going to select Mini.io. Right, there it is, with GitOps. And there are several options, Poly and Webhook. Basically, I'm just going to use Webhook for the sake of this of the demo, and I'm just going to deploy it straight here. Now, once this is done, I want to make sure I can be able to access this. And the other lovely thing we like a lot about DigitalOcean is the ability to just add several plugins and applications onto your Kubernetes cluster very easily. I have already had the ingress controller pre-configured, so just so we don't waste time because that was presented already. Basically, it's running on this IP address. So what I'm going to do, let's check it. Okay, my mini.io server is already running. Let's expose this to make sure that we can run it from the internet. I'm going to add an ingress to this mini.io deployment on my DOKS webinar namespace using Nginx. I don't need any rewrite annotations or anything fancy for now. I'm just going to do a very straightforward deployment here. The first thing I'm going to do is expose the console on the path. I'm going to add a new host. I'm going to call this guy mini.io. And from here, I'm going to expose the S3 bucket service per se. So I have two hosts that I'm using with them. If you don't know NIP.io, NIP.io helps you map IP addresses to a host name. And with this, I can very easily access my mini.io deployment. It should show up here. And if all goes well, I click on this link and I should see my mini.io console. There it is. Mini.io, log in, and there you go. No buckets for now. So how would I migrate my data from my internal one, the one running on my bare metal, to the DOKS cluster? Very easily. I can create a new bucket. I'll call it DO, just the same, webinar 2024, versioning. And now I'm going to replicate everything I have in this bucket here running on my internal cluster to the one running on DOKS. Basically, what we do, this is very easy. Just go here, go replication. I'm going to add a replication rule. It's let's copy the host name again. There you go. It's running actually in port 80 because it's using the English controller. The password is potato1234. The target bucket, if all goes well, it should work. Webinar 2024. And I'll leave it synchronous for now with existing objects. Oops, there was an error. Maybe I messed something up. Let's see. Save. Should work. Oh, sorry, I forgot. It's mini.io dot and without TLS. Save. This should work perfectly. Lovely. There you go. Now, as you see, there's nothing in this bucket. If I want to synchronize things, I can very easily just go here and let's upload a file to see if it works. Upload a file, and you'll see how snappy this is. This is very, very fast. I'm going to upload the logo here, DigitalOcean logo. And if all goes well in this bucket, I should see something coming up. And there you go. I managed to synchronize my internal data center deployment into DOKS, and also my data using mini.io into DOKS. Obviously, this is just one method. There are other ways to do this. You should be aware that there's data migration requires other external tools like backup and restore. But as you saw, it was very easy to do, and more so, it was very fast. DOKS is very, very, very performant. That's another thing we love about the platform. And well, that's pretty much it. That's what I wanted to show you guys, how easy it is to migrate using the GitOps method, a deployment running on any Kubernetes cluster. In this case, it was a bare metal cluster into DOKS by just using the GitOps option and mapping the ingresses very, very easily from my internal deployment to the external world. All right, then. Okay, and that's pretty much it. We'll stay here for questions.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Adolfo, Alexander, and Jack. Now we are ready to go to the questions. I did answer a few questions, but I definitely see a few questions that we need to follow up. If you have any more questions, please do chime in the comments right now. So the first question that I noted was from JC. JC's question is, using Kubernetes in Azure, the reporting can be overly complex. So how does the reporting in DOKS compare to that? And for example, resource allocation, uptime, etc. Alexander, given that you are our customer, would you like to take a stab at it?
Sure. So when it comes to monitoring and comparing to other vendors, especially Azure, I'm not really able to share my experience with Azure. That would be better to ask my DevOps team. But when it comes to monitoring with DigitalOcean, we have it really easy to compare stats in the control plane. When it comes to high availability traffic, we can see the basics, and we also store the logs when it comes to errors, warnings, and etc., security vulnerability with our inbuilt system that comes to our Elasticsearch databases, and we can see it through our interfaces. So I'm not really able to compare it. But yes, when it comes to Azure, everything, literally from my point of view, is really complicated. I recently had that experience configuring the applications there, and I didn't have fun. But let me be honest.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question is from Calogero. My apologies if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. The question is, can I have a means of multi-cluster in DOKS, and more specifically multi-region and a geo proximity service? Jack, do you want to take a stab at it?
Yes, sure. Okay, so I guess this is quite a common question. You can deploy Kubernetes, our Kubernetes clusters, to all of the regions that we have data centers. And then you can install an overlay VPN, so like an overlay network using a VPN technology such as Tailscale or NetMaker, something like that that's based on WireGuard. And then you can communicate between the two clusters. You can set up a service mesh that way and communicate between the two. For geo load balancing and geo redundancy, I would recommend taking a look at something like Cloudflare's geo load balancer, because that will integrate nicely with our load balancers, so then you can fail over traffic between the two regions.
Awesome. Thank you, Jack. Then the other question is from Quitsi Garcia. Can you elaborate a bit more on the database operator for DOKS, and why would I want to use that? Maybe I can take it up. We built this database operator so that you can create a database, managed database, as a Kubernetes object. So today, basically, you have to go and create it using your own Terraform or CLI or UI, and then use it from Kubernetes. But what if you just wanted to create the database itself as a Kubernetes resource? That's how you can use the database operator. If that suits your automation needs, great. If not, you should just create the database the way you want to, the way that you are creating today. Hopefully that answers your question. And then from Max, we had audit logs. I already answered that in the chat. I don't see any other question, and we just have 2 minutes remaining. So I think it's time to just close it here. We did share some of the resources here for you. Those who you want to, like, if you are new to DigitalOcean, definitely sign up, and then you get $100 credit. If you need help, you can talk to sales. If you want to explore what Younet.ai provides you for really being more productive at work, look up their website. And then for Portainer, obviously, if you want to try it out, you get up to 3 nodes for free. With that brings us to the end of today's webinar. I really hope that you found the discussion helpful. On behalf of the entire team, I want to thank you for your engaged participation. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.